Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins All World, coin lovers and treasure hunters. If you've ever found yourself digging through your change or that old jar of coins on the shelf, hoping to strike gold, you're going to love today's video. Because today, we're talking about one of the smallest coins in your pocket, that might just have one of the biggest surprises. This is the story of the 1980 Roosevelt Dime. That's right, just 10 cents. But what if I told you that this tiny piece of metal, weighing just over 2 grams, could be worth thousands of dollars? Yep, you heard that right. So don't blink, because this one is a real sleeper in the world of coin collecting. Let's start with the basics. The Roosevelt dime has been a staple of U.S. currency since 1946, introduced to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt shortly after his passing. His legacy as a leader through the Great Depression and World War II made him one of the most respected presidents in American history, and the mint paid tribute to him by placing his profile on the 10-cent coin. Fast forward to 1980, and America is riding the waves of inflation, the Cold War, and the early stirrings of a tech boom. Coins were still made with copper-nickel-clad composition. Silver had long been phased out of circulating dimes by that point. So, most people would assume that a 1980 dime is just another coin you'd toss into a vending machine or leave on your car's dashboard, but that's where the story takes a twist, because among the millions of 1980 dimes produced, a handful were struck with errors, misprints, and minting flaws that transformed them from everyday coins into extremely rare, highly valuable collector pieces. So, what exactly should you look for? Let's talk about no mint mark dimes. In 1980, Roosevelt dimes were produced at multiple U.S. mints, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most coins struck in Philadelphia should carry no mint mark. However, this was also the first year the Philadelphia Mint began using a P mint mark on dimes. So, a 1980 dime without a mint mark, especially in proof condition, is a coin you'll want to examine very closely. Some of these slipped through with missing or weak mint marks, making them instantly collectible. Next, there's the off-metal error, an extremely rare scenario where a dime was accidentally struck on a blank intended for a different denomination, like a penny or even a foreign coin. These errors are often noticeable by a difference in weight, color, or size. They are rare, bizarre, and absolutely adored by collectors. Now let's talk about double die errors, one of the most exciting categories in coin collecting. This happens when the coin die strikes the same area twice but not perfectly aligned, causing parts of the design to appear doubled. If you spot doubling in the date, 1980, or on the lettering like Liberty or In God We Trust, congratulations, you might be holding a gem. Another exciting and lesser-known error involves clipped planchets. This means the blank metal disc used to make the coin was improperly cut, causing part of the coin to have a crescent-shaped missing section. Combine that with a visible date, and you've got something rare and valuable. There are also broad strikes, die cracks, cuds, and off-center strikes, each of which leaves behind a unique fingerprint of minting mayhem. And the crazier the error looks, while still preserving some essential details like the date, the more valuable it becomes to collectors. But it's not just about errors. Condition matters a lot. A regular 1980 dime might only be worth face value, but if it's in mint state, especially graded MS-66, MS-67 or higher, it becomes a whole different story. That means sharp details, no scratches, no signs of wear, just a flawless finish straight from the mint. Now here's the kicker: one particular 1980 Roosevelt dime, featuring a dramatic and rare mint error, preserved in nearly perfect condition, professionally authenticated and graded, stunned the numismatic world when it sold for an incredible $34,000 at auction. That's right, $34,000. For a dime. So, the next time you're handed one in change at the gas station, or you find one tucked into the bottom of your coin jar, don't overlook it. Pull out a magnifying glass, weigh it, check the edge, inspect the mint mark, or lack thereof. Because that little coin could be your ticket to something big. Today's video might just blow your mind. What if I told you that a simple Roosevelt dime from 2005, something you probably pass by every day, could be worth tens of thousands of dollars? Yes, you heard that right. We're diving deep into the world of the 2005 Roosevelt Dime, and trust me, this one is a sleeper you don't want to miss. Before we dive into its value, let's talk about what makes this coin so special. The Roosevelt Dime, a coin we all know so well, has been in circulation since 1946. It's named after Franklin D. Roosevelt, one of the most influential presidents in American history. His image, captured in a dignified profile by artist John Flanagan, has graced the obverse side of the dime for decades. The reverse, featuring a torch, olive branch, and oak branch, symbolizes liberty, peace, and strength. Simple, yet powerful. Now, we fast forward to 2005. The U.S. Mint was in full swing, churning out billions of coins each year. But, as with any coin, there's always the possibility for minting errors, tiny mistakes that can turn an otherwise mundane coin into something extraordinarily valuable. And the 2005 Roosevelt Dime has its fair share of these. Let's start by talking about the most common error that collectors love, the off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned with the dies during the minting process, causing part of the design to be missing or misaligned. A 2005 Roosevelt Dime with a dramatic off-center strike can be extremely rare, especially if it includes some of the original date or features that are still legible. Collectors go crazy over these kinds of errors because they are unique, eye-catching, and often quite striking. No pun intended. Another error type to keep an eye out for is double die coins. This occurs when the coin die strikes a blank planchet multiple times, causing a slight misalignment in the design. The result is a visible, doubling effect on parts of the design, like the date, the words, liberty, or, in God we trust. In the case of the 2005 dime, a double die could make that year stand out in a very valuable way. The doubling effect, especially when it's clear and crisp, is highly sought after by collectors because it's a visible sign of a rare mistake during the minting process. Then, there are the die cracks and die chips. These are small but significant flaws that occur when the dies used to strike the coins begin to wear out or crack. A die crack can leave a thin line running through the design, while a die chip can create a small raised bump or extra feature on the coin. In the world of coin collecting, these might seem like flaws, but in reality, they make the coin even more valuable. The more dramatic the crack or chip, the more prized it becomes. A die crack that runs through Roosevelt's profile or across the lettering of Liberty is not only fascinating but also a reminder of the history behind each coin. Now, let's talk about high-grade coins. The majority of the 2005 dimes you'll find in circulation are worn, scratched, and have lost some of their original mint luster. But for collectors, the value isn't just in the rarity of the errors, it's in the condition of the coin. A 2005 Roosevelt dime in perfect, mint condition, with no visible wear, scratches, or tarnishing, is a true treasure. Coins that are graded MS 67 or higher can fetch a premium price. So, while most dimes might be worth only 10 cents, a pristine, high-grade example of the 2005 dime can easily climb in value. But here's the real kicker. Among the rare error coins that have emerged from the 2005 minting, one of the most notable sold for an astonishing amount at auction. A 2005 Roosevelt dime, featuring a combination of an off-center strike and a dramatic die crack, sold for $30,000. Yes, you heard that right, $30,000. For a single dime. So, what does this mean for you? Well, the next time you come across a 2005 Roosevelt dime in your change, take a closer look. It might just be the one with an off-center strike, a double die error, or a die crack that turns it from a common dime into a valuable collectible. Remember, coin collecting isn't always about finding the rarest coins, it's about knowing what to look for, understanding the small details that make each coin unique, and being patient. You never know when a simple dime will turn into a small fortune. Today, we're going to uncover one of those surprises, something that's been sitting in plain sight for years. Today, we're diving into the 1999 Roosevelt $1 dime. At first glance, this coin might seem just like any other dime, small, silver, and featuring the familiar profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt. But if you dig a little deeper, you'll discover that this 1999 dime is no ordinary coin. In fact, it's a rare treasure that could be worth much more than you think. So grab a magnifying glass and stick around, because we're about to explore the secrets of this unassuming dime that could hold a hidden fortune. Let's take a moment to understand the history behind the Roosevelt dime. First introduced in 1946, the Roosevelt dime was issued to honor the late President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away in 1945. The coin was designed by famed sculptor John Flanagan and was meant to honor Roosevelt's leadership during World War II and his efforts in promoting the March of Dimes charity, which raised funds for polio research. By 1999, the U.S. Mint had already been striking these dimes for over 50 years, but that doesn't mean they were without their surprises. The 1999 Roosevelt dime was part of a long series that many collectors might have overlooked. But as time passed, certain variations, errors, and specific conditions of these coins began to spark real interest in the numismatic community. Now, let's talk about rarity, one of the key elements that make any coin valuable. The 1999 Roosevelt dime was produced in large quantities, and most of them were used in daily transactions. So, what makes it stand out? Well, finding a 1999 dime in mint condition is already a rare thing. Over time, dimes get scratched, worn, and tarnished from being passed through hands, vending machines, and coin rolls. A well-preserved, uncirculated 1999 dime is already a rare find in itself, but here's where things get even more interesting. There are certain errors that can make the 1999 dime even more valuable. These errors can make a dime, which otherwise would have been worth just 10 cents, skyrocket in price among collectors. Let's go over the most notable types of errors to watch for. First up, we have the off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned with the die during the minting process, resulting in a portion of the design being missing or misaligned. If you come across a 1999 Roosevelt dime with a noticeable off-center strike, especially if it's a significant misalignment, it could be worth a small fortune. Error coins like this are highly prized because they are unique and visually striking. Another error to keep an eye out for is the double die. Double die errors occur when the coin is struck multiple times by the dies, but the dies are not perfectly aligned. This results in the design, especially the date or the lettering, appearing slightly doubled. If you spot a 1999 dime with a doubled date, a doubled Liberty, or a doubled In God We Trust, you could be holding a rare and valuable piece in your hands. These types of errors are not only fascinating to look at but also highly collectible, making them even more desirable to serious collectors. Then, there are clashed dies. This happens when the two dies used to strike the coin make contact with each other without a coin in between, leaving marks or impressions on the surface of the coin. A 1999 dime with a die clash could have subtle, unusual marks or features on it, making it a highly sought-after error for those who love unusual and distinctive coins. And let's not forget about the misstrikes. A misstrike occurs when a coin is struck with an incorrect planchet, or a blank intended for another denomination. A 1999 Roosevelt dime that was struck on the wrong type of metal or an incorrect size blank could be extremely valuable. These types of errors are extremely rare and are often found after years of careful searching by seasoned collectors. So, what's the ultimate takeaway for all of you coin lovers out there? If you're lucky enough to find a 1999 Roosevelt dime with any of these rare errors, you could have a very valuable coin on your hands. Whether it's an off-center strike, a double die error, or something else entirely, these little flaws can mean the difference between a 10-cent coin and a rare treasure worth thousands. Now, let's get to the exciting part, the value. In the world of coin collecting, certain versions of the 1999 Roosevelt dime have been sold for incredible prices at auctions. One particular dime, with a stunning mint error, recently sold for $35,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $35,000 for a single dime. Who would have thought that something so small could be worth such a staggering amount of money? So, the next time you find a 1999 Roosevelt dime in your pocket change or dug up in a collection, don't just brush it off. Take a moment to inspect it closely. It might be the key to unlocking a hidden fortune. Whether it's in perfect condition, has an error, or is just a rare find, the 1999 Roosevelt dime could be more valuable than you ever imagined. Today, we're going to talk about the 2001 Roosevelt 1 dime, a coin you might have overlooked, but one that could potentially be sitting on a small fortune. You may have passed by it countless times, but trust me, this little dime could be hiding something truly valuable. The Roosevelt dime is no stranger to collectors. Introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the coin has been a part of everyday transactions for decades. Its iconic design, featuring Roosevelt's portrait by John Flanagan, and the reverse symbolizing liberty with a torch, olive branch, and oak branch, has been etched into the public's mind for years. But in 2001, something interesting happened. A series of minting errors made certain versions of this dime quite rare and valuable. Now, let's dive into what makes the 2001 Roosevelt dime special. At first glance, this coin might seem just like any other dime, small, silver, and easy to overlook. But for those with a trained eye, there are certain features that could make this dime stand out in a big way. The first thing to watch for is condition. As with any coin, the value increases significantly if it's in pristine, uncirculated condition. Most dimes, especially from the early 2000s, have been through years of circulation, resulting in wear and tear. But if you happen to find a 2001 dime in perfect condition, you've already discovered something rare. These coins were struck by the U.S. Mint in large numbers, but many of them have been heavily circulated. So, a well-preserved, uncirculated example of the 2001 Roosevelt dime can quickly increase in value, sometimes dramatically, but condition alone isn't the only thing that makes the 2001 dime interesting. There are errors that make this coin even more valuable. Minting errors occur when something goes wrong during the production process, leading to imperfections that make the coin different from the standard issue. And those imperfections are exactly what collectors love. One of the most common errors in the 2001 Roosevelt dime is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned during the minting process, causing part of the design to be missing or misaligned. A dime with a significant off-center strike can be a unique piece in the eyes of collectors, especially if the error is large enough to affect key elements like Roosevelt's face or the date. These off-center errors are rare, and the more dramatic the misalignment, the higher the value. Another type of error to keep an eye out for is the double die. This occurs when the coin is struck by the die multiple times, resulting in a noticeable doubling effect on the design, especially the date or the letters. For example, if you find a 2001 dime with a doubled Liberty or a doubled In God We Trust, you're looking at a coin that could be worth much more than just 10 cents. These errors are highly sought after because they're unique and visually interesting, making them a prized find for coin collectors. If you're lucky enough to find a 2001 Roosevelt dime with an off-center strike or double die error, you're sitting on a potential treasure. But it doesn't stop there. Other types of errors, like die cracks or clashed dies, can also increase a coin's value. A die crack occurs when a crack forms on the die used to strike the coin, leaving a permanent mark on the surface of the coin. A die clash happens when the dies strike each other without a coin between them, leaving unintended marks on the coin's surface. While these errors might seem small, they are highly desirable to collectors who enjoy the uniqueness of these coins. Now, let's talk about rarity. In coin collecting, rarity is one of the most important factors when determining a coin's value. While most 2001 dimes may seem like nothing special, the ones with minting errors or in pristine condition are incredibly rare. The U.S. Mint produced millions of dimes that year, but most of them have been used in everyday transactions and are worn down. To find a well-preserved 2001 dime with an error or in mint condition is a rare occurrence, and that rarity is what makes it valuable. So, you might be wondering, just how valuable can a 2001 Roosevelt dime be? Well, here's the moment you've been waiting for. If you're lucky enough to find a 2001 Roosevelt dime with a minting error, especially one with an off-center strike, double die, or another significant flaw, this coin could fetch a remarkable price at auction. One such coin has been known to sell for an impressive $32,000, yes, that's right, $32,000 for a single dime. It's hard to believe, but when you consider how rare and sought-after error coins are, it starts to make sense. A dime that most people wouldn't think twice about could end up being worth a small fortune. Imagine finding one of these rare coins tucked away in a coin jar or buried in a roll of dimes from your local bank. So, the next time you see a 2001 Roosevelt dime, don't just dismiss it. Take a closer look. Inspect the date, the design, and the overall condition of the coin. It could be the key to unlocking a hidden treasure in your collection. And remember, whether it's an off-center strike, a double die error, or just a coin in pristine condition, you could be holding onto a piece of history worth much more than you ever imagined. Today, we're diving into a coin that you might have passed by countless times without giving it a second thought. But what if I told you that a simple dime, specifically the 1980 Roosevelt One dime, could hold a secret worth a small fortune? Yes, you heard that right. A dime, one of the most common coins in circulation, could be sitting in your collection right now, hiding a rare and valuable error. Stick with me to discover just how much this small coin can be worth. Now, before we get into the exciting details about this coin's value, let's first take a step back and understand the history behind the 1980 Roosevelt dime. Roosevelt dimes were first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt after his passing. Roosevelt was widely admired for his leadership during World War II and his work to help defeat polio, and the dime was designed to commemorate his legacy. The design of the coin is simple but iconic. On the obverse, we see the profile of Roosevelt, and on the reverse, a torch flanked by olive branches and oak branches, symbolizing peace, unity, and strength. It's a coin that represents American history, but what makes the 1980 version so special? Let's get into that. In terms of production, the 1980 Roosevelt dime was minted in large numbers, with millions of these coins entering circulation. But here's where it gets interesting. The rarity and value of this particular dime come down to specific conditions and errors that could make it stand out from the rest. You see, just like with other coins, certain minting flaws can make a coin much more valuable to collectors. These errors are rare, and when they do occur, they can make a coin that was once considered ordinary into a highly sought-after collectible. Let's start by talking about the most common and most valuable error you should be on the lookout for: off-center strikes. This happens when the coin is not properly aligned with the minting die, resulting in a design that is shifted to one side. In a 1980 Roosevelt dime, an off-center strike can make the coin look unusual and unique. While the off-center strike doesn't necessarily need to be huge to be valuable, the more misaligned the strike, the more sought after the coin becomes. An off-center 1980 dime could be worth a considerable amount more than a standard issue, but the off-center strike isn't the only error to watch out for. Another highly valuable error is the double die. This occurs when the coin is struck multiple times by the minting die, but not perfectly aligned each time. This results in a slight doubling effect in the design. For a 1980 Roosevelt dime, this can show up in places like the date, where you might see a doubled 1980, or in the lettering on the coin like Liberty or In God We Trust. A doubled date or doubled letters can make this dime a rare and valuable collector's piece, and these types of errors are highly desirable on the market. Another potential error to keep an eye out for is die cracks. A die crack occurs when a crack forms in the minting die and leaves a permanent mark on the coin. These die cracks can appear anywhere on the coin, often near the edges or around the design. In some cases, die cracks are subtle, but in other cases, they can create prominent lines or imperfections that make the coin stand out. If you find a 1980 Roosevelt dime with a visible die crack, especially one that creates a distinctive pattern, you could be holding a rare piece that is worth much more than its face value. Also, some 1980 dimes may have been struck on an incorrect planchet, leading to a coin with unusual characteristics. A coin struck on the wrong planchet could look slightly different in color or thickness, and these types of errors are always highly collectible because of their uniqueness. While such errors are rare, they're also highly prized by collectors, and finding one could mean you have a coin worth far more than you'd expect. Now, let's talk about condition. It's not just about the errors, condition plays a huge role in a coin's value. The 1980 Roosevelt dime, like most coins, was minted and then spent in daily transactions. The vast majority of these dimes have been worn down, scratched, and tarnished after years of use. But if you happen to find a 1980 dime in uncirculated condition, one that looks just as fresh as it did when it was first struck, that coin could be a true gem. The cleaner, sharper, and more detailed the coin, the more valuable it becomes. High-quality, well-preserved examples of this coin can command a pretty penny, even without any significant errors. So, what's the bottom line here? The 1980 Roosevelt dime might seem like just another dime, but it could actually be hiding a rare and valuable error that makes it worth much more than its face value. Whether it's an off-center strike, a double die, or some other minting anomaly, the 1980 Roosevelt dime has the potential to be worth thousands of dollars, depending on its condition and the rarity of the error. If you happen to find a 1980 Roosevelt dime with an error or in pristine condition, you could be holding a piece worth $34,000. Yes, that's $34,000 for just one dime. It's hard to believe, but with the right error or in excellent condition, this dime could bring in a substantial sum when sold to the right collector. So, next time you're flipping through your coin jar or checking your pocket change, take a second look at your 1980 Roosevelt dimes. You might just have a rare and valuable treasure hiding in plain sight. Whether it's a minting error or just a coin in excellent shape, don't overlook the potential for something big. If you enjoyed this video and want to discover more hidden treasures in the world of coin collecting, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss another exciting find. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy collecting.